And welcome back to episode 91 of the Weekly Tech Rant with me, Jay.
And me, Cole.
So, coming to you live from an undisclosed location, somewhere closer to Apple HQ than you are, Carl, but,
Somewhat closer.
somewhat closer.
You're the right side of the world for a start.
Yes, but like I said, undisclosed location. But what I can tell you is it is sunny here the morning time whilst you're in the afternoon, and that's where we'll leave that. Yep. So, we are back for our yearly Dub special. It has been one hell of a show in terms of the lineup. I don't think they could have stopped after an hour. They probably could have gone for 3, maybe, given the amount of stuff they were talking about. What do you think?
There was an awful lot of stuff, and I don't know. Part of me, it looked like a very consumer rather than developer-focused event. But then again, they kept bringing up that pretty much every feature they were introducing had an API, so that developers could bring those features to the apps. But it was very much like an iPhone launch event. It was very consumer focused.
Do you know what? I had to say I agree with you that I was unfortunate I couldn't watch it live as you were, but thanks to the power of technology, I was getting updates, and I've caught up on the live stream and watched that as well, and read some of the commentary from other people in the tech industry. And I think you're right. It did feel, as you say, more like a product launch event as opposed to a dev conference. That I think in the past they would have been more focused perhaps on some of the capabilities, on some of the software aspects. But here it's just like shiny thing, API, shiny thing, API.
Here's a new shiny thing.
But I'm not going to complain because there was a ton of stuff talked about, and we have got a lot to cover today. We've pulled out some of the best bits, what we think of the show. So covering into 3 areas, we're going to talk about the software aspects today, from everything from iOS 16 through to CarPlay, and a little bit more on that coming in. Obviously, the M2 chip, which was a bit of a surprise from some angles. I don't think some commentators were expecting an M2 so soon, but I think it does make sense given where they're releasing and the product cycle. And we've got we're going to cover alongside that in the software section some of the other kind of features that were released, which tie into iOS, iPadOS, etc. as well. So, let's kick off then with the first one, which is iOS 16. And of course, as the day is long and the sun shines, there will always be new versions of iOS announced in a dub, and the phone will follow, of course, in September. But iOS 16 has had one hell of an overhaul, hasn't it?
It has, and obviously a lot of what we discuss now for iOS 16 will also be in iPadOS and vice versa. We've just split it up this way. So obviously starting with the new lock screen, they spent a lot of time talking about this. So, I mean, the lock screen on iOS has always been a bit
bland.
Bland? Yeah, let's go with bland for numerous years. It's functional, we'll call it. But yeah, so now we're getting what we're getting. We're getting cool new kind of animated pictures, layering effects on those pictures where you can separate like the foreground from the background and put the time between the two so they overlap. You'll be able to change the fonts, the colors of the text and time. Very similar to kind of how you customize a watch face on watchOS.
I think so. Yeah,
widgets. Finally, going to get widgets.
I was going to say widgets. The widget thing kind of makes me chuckle because they introduced the widgets, didn't they, with iOS 15, and people were using those on the main display, weren't they? And you could customize them. Yeah. But these widgets that they showed on the screenshots and the demos, I don't know, a little bit odd, aren't they? They look like the watch face widgets, or is that just me? Am I just
they look like complications, don't they?
That's the word I couldn't. Thank you. I couldn't think of the word complications. That's it. Yeah. Complicated, I think, is the right way to look at it.
But there's an API again for this, so other developers will be able to create their own widgets. I don't know how much freedom they have and how many widgets you can have. I mean, they only really showed a bar underneath the time with like 3 or 4 different ones in there. But hopefully they can be more elaborate than that.
Yeah, I think they will. I mean, I have to say, given that we've only got the screenshots, obviously I haven't downloaded iOS 16 yet. I'm brave, but I'm not stupid. But what I do say, the screenshots they showed with pictures on the front, I love the way that the time sits behind the images. Did you notice that on some of the pictures they had?
Yeah, that's that layering effect with the photos where you can separate the front
Brilliant.
from the back and then put text behind it. It looked very cool.
It looks really cool. As you say, you've got the widget bar there that pops up. I think it's so you can have the different blocks there. So you can move the pictures, you say, for the widgets. You can have multiple widgets in those blocks, and you can have them. And I don't know how many they did say somewhere. I think how many can be added into a block, wasn't it? It was several, But
I must
it
have
is
missed that one.
the personalization though. I think it's brilliant. And the other thing as well is the flow now has changed. So notifications are coming in from the bottom end of the screen, aren't they now, as opposed to popping up?
And you've got that
I was
live
just going to say,
activities, haven't you?
yeah,
So
the live activities has
I'm
begun.
trying to work out this. So this is for notifications. They're kind of like temporary widgets, aren't they? So if you have a notification about, I don't know, your food order, for example, it can kind of pop a temporary widget up that will track where your food order is until it arrives. Then once it's arrived and been delivered, the widget kind of disappears off.
That was it. What did they call it? Live activities, wasn't it? That was it. And I got a quote here because I saw it. Apple said this was for creating compact and glanceable experiences.
I see. Well,
but
else that's coming to
that API though.
Is,
just a quick quote on that: the API for that live activities will not be available at launch.
No, that's coming a bit later in the year, isn't it?
Yeah, which is similar to what they did, if you remember, with the SharePlay thing. That only turned up a little while ago, didn't it? So, but carry on. Sorry, carry on.
Time to bake.
Yeah.
No worries. I was to say the only other kind of thing I saw that affected the lock screen was focus mode. So that's now coming to the lock screen as well. And focus mode is where you can set up, I suppose, a focus mode for work, can't you? That only shows notifications and apps around work and one for home. But that will now flow on to the lock screen as well and affect what you can see there.
Yeah, so again, isn't it? So you can have the different lock screen, as you say, the different focuses. I don't know. Have you used focus much? I typically don't.
No.
The only one I tend to use through automatic is driving focus. So that automatic.
I don't use that because I've got CarPlay, so I just have bits pop up.
Yeah, but when I'm in the car, it does it automatically. So when my car connects to CarPlay, it puts it in driving focus mode.
Oh, okay. Mine doesn't. I must have disabled that one.
And what I've noticed is that because of the ecosystem, let's say I've been out of the car, I get back in the house, I walk to my laptop, and my Mac is in driving focus mode. till I sign back in, of course, and it's like, oh no, you're not driving. So we'll put you in mode. But yeah, and I think I used obviously do not disturb kicks in as well after 10 p.m.
Yeah, that's the only one I use because it replaced do not disturb mode, didn't it? So
yeah.
I have one for night time. It comes in at 10 o'clock or 10:30, then turns off at 8 in the morning or whatever.
That's right. So obviously that's some of the lock screen there for. The other thing, was it me or do the fonts look different? It looks bolder. Or am I just imagining that?
Well, you can change the fonts on the lock screen. I don't know about the home screen.
That's right. Thank you. That's why, because it was looking at. That's right. You can do the font and color, can't you? So there's a color picker. And the thing, I was looking at it for ages. I was like that time, because obviously they were
different. I can't figure out what.
That's right. Because the 941 time is that they always use. And I'm like, that looks really bold. When I look at my screen right now, it does look very good. So, what other features did we get then? Because there was a load of under the hood changes as well. Wasn't
finally, iMessage is getting some overhaul. I mean, iMessage hasn't changed in forever, really. I mean, we're not getting much. We're getting an edit button finally, so you can edit those messages, and you can even, it's saying recall, but we'll just call them delete. So edit and delete messages. You'll be able to mark threads as unread. I think there's some SharePlay enhancements coming in to make it easy to start those SharePlay sessions from iMessage itself. There were some cool new features with the dictation stuff. Now, I don't really use it that much, apart from when I'm in the car to dictate messages. But this was about having some kind of hybrid, wasn't it? So you can have the keyboard open, and while still dictating. So you can be dictating, you can use the keyboard to select a word or a sentence it got wrong and redictate. A kind of mix and mash. Then, there were some cool features with that dictation. It's going to get enhancements. So when you're doing longer sentences, it's going to start putting punctuation in and stuff like that for your long messages. So a nice little improvement to iMessage, I think.
Yeah, the edit button was kind of made you kind of like raise your eyebrows, like edit button. Okay, that's interesting, isn't it? WhatsApp style feature there, isn't it? WhatsApp doesn't have it, or does it? I can't remember. Does it have it?
Teams.
Teams. Sorry.
It's coming to WhatsApp, isn't it?
That's right. It is. It's coming to WhatsApp, and it's the fabled, the edit button for Twitter that, the rainbow at the end of the gold at the end of the rainbow. It
You're
may
never
exist, it may
getting
not.
it.
But you're right. I think that's pretty good. The dictation piece made me. I was kind of like, yeah, that's good. It kind of reminded me of the old days of Dragon Naturally Speaking. Adding punctuation in and
Oh
that kind of
yeah,
stuff.
I had that on my PC. I remember
Yeah.
that.
But the other thing I saw there as well was the live text now works
Oh,
with
in
video,
video.
isn't it? So live text, if you remember from iOS 15, allowed you to take a picture, wasn't it, over static image, and then
I use that all the time.
the camera would allow read, wasn't it? It's quite clever. But now you can do it in video, so you can stop on any frame, and then any text that's in that frame will now show up and allow you to look at translation, and
Yep.
also you can also do. I think what was the example they gave us? Copying code or something, wasn't it? Randomly,
Yeah,
was the
copying code
example.
from a tutorial video. Yeah.
That was it, yeah. Which I thought was kind of like, okay, we're in a dev conference, you've got to bring it back, I suppose. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean, I use that with the actual photos all the time for dragging phone numbers out of it or text, not necessarily for translation, but just copying text and stuff out of photos quite often. So yeah, it'd be cool to have it in video.
and what was the other thing was that they had like a lasso tool, didn't they, as well? So you can like select
Oh yeah, that's
images.
to do with the photo stuff, isn't it? So yeah, you can press down on maybe a person within a photo, and it will intelligently select just the person, allow you to copy that, just that person or that object, whatever you said, straight into a message or a note or whatever you're putting it in.
Loads and loads of new features. I was thinking, when we said last week that iOS 16, and he said 15, sorry, iOS 16 was going to be more of a cosmetic overhaul, but actually, I think they've
No,
gone
there's some
far
good
deeper
stuff in
than
there. There's some dangerous stuff. I mean, did you see the bit on family photo albums?
that. Well, I was just coming to that. Yeah, so that was the bit I was coming to next. Was around some of the family changes, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it sounded great, but the more I thought about it, the more I was like, oh. So yeah, currently we do something similar. We have an iCloud account, and we have all our family in there, and we have a shared album called Family Photos between us. But you have to
Same.
so but you actually have to send the photos to that album. It's
That's right.
still
Yep.
your personal one, but you send them to the shared family album. So they're now bringing in a cloud shared photo for your family album, so that you can send photos directly there from within the camera. So within the camera itself, you'll have a drop down at the top. Your personal albums, your family ones. If you select the family one, and you can choose that as default if you want to, every photo you take will go directly to the family album and not your personal one.
That could be dangerous.
Oh, that
Not.
could.
I'm not
Yeah.
suggesting anything of an unsavory nature. That's not what I meant. I just meant sometimes you might be taking pictures of something that you don't want to share with everybody.
Yeah.
You don't want to necessarily have the kids see, not because it's of a PG-13
Inappropriate nature.
yeah, but sometimes it just might be something. Might be, let's say, I know, as a parent, you're out and you see something, you think, oh, that'd be a great gift for one of my kids. You take a picture of it to send to your other half, and then that pops up in the family album. They're like, "Hey, so Dad, what's this? My new shiny Xbox, whatever." I'm just, I know it's a random one, but
and I know there are some not safeguards, but there are kind of rules you could put in place, like it'll only share those photos automatically if all the participants were in the same facility at the same time and stuff like that. Actually, yeah, I need to play with this one and see how it'll work, but it's not something I'm going to be turning on straight away, I don't think.
No, and I do like the idea of, because when I look at iCloud, as similar to you said, it is the main repository for all of our family photos these days. And and I was looking this morning on my Mac here, and I've got 13,933 photos and nearly 300 plus videos in my iCloud library. And wow. There's a lot of albums in there. I've got, I use the feature to identify people. So it picks the kids, and it's kind of like for our kids, their whole life is there. The whole of their from birth to school to everything. Their existence is there. So I think having ability to share that, and as the children join that ecosystem as well, giving them access to it to ensure that is a great way. But you're right; it's got to be managed properly. It's got to be accessed.
I wonder if there's still that issue, because I'm hoping it's not going to be a limit on the number of photos or videos you can put in there. Because we're on the family album 3 now, because you seem to get to around 4,000 or 5,000 photos or videos,
right?
And you can't upload anymore to a shared album, but you never get a message. They just never upload.
That's curious. I don't think we've got that many in our family one because I think I was quite selective in what I was putting in there to share. But yeah, okay, that's interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah, you never got an error message, but they just they showed for you, but never for the other people, or vice versa. Whoever uploaded it showed for. So you don't have to create another album. Hence why we're on Family Album 3. But 4's around the corner because we've just hit the 4,000 photos mark. So I'll probably just create another one so we don't lose any.
So there were a few other features mentioned then with so one of them, of course, I wanted to mention was the mail. So the mail app's getting overhauled as well, isn't it? So now you're getting features that you get in kind of enterprise mail apps. So things like scheduling of emails, the ability to do recall as well, which again is kind of a standard feature with Outlook, isn't it? If anybody use Outlook,
it is. Yeah.
There's also a reminder feature and a follow-up as well, which again is similar to how Microsoft Outlook works today. If anybody uses what they call the new Outlook, those features are there as well. So I'm kind of like, again, very handy things that, I don't know about you, when I'm using my phone, they're kind of stuff that I want to have because, I send a lot of email from my phone and have to some of those features. And I don't always necessarily want to have to install another mail app.
Well, see, I use the Outlook one because it was just easier for me with work because I use a lot more of the advanced features of Outlook, which are never ever going to come to Safari. To iOS Mail, things like categorization and all that kind of stuff. So it won't be for me, but it's nice to see that the default has improved.
No, so I'm with you. I use Outlook on my Mac for my personal and my business email, of course, and I use the Outlook app on my phone just purely for my business email because I didn't want another app, so to speak, to have. But I get where you're coming from, and yeah, I think they're not always, like you say, it's going to be something you're going to run yourself, but the fact that those capabilities there is good. So, kind of then the other part was there's one thing I want to talk about, and then you mentioned as well. When we do the notes, was there is the safety piece as well, isn't it? But we'll come back to, I think, that in a second, because also there were some other updates along Apple Pay, wasn't there? Wallet and Maps as well, all got updates too.
Well, yeah, the big one for me, we've got Face ID will now work in landscape mode on the phone.
That's kind of a random one, do you not think?
It's a random. It's just an annoying thing that unless your phone is definitely horizontal, a portrait, Face ID doesn't work. But it does on an iPad, the Face ID. Doesn't matter which way you have your iPad, it just works.
Yeah, it does just work. You are right. Yeah, it must be some kind of software angling.
Phone, it doesn't. So it is. So finally, that's going to work in iOS 16. What else did we get? So I saw a cool little one actually not from the main session, but from a developer session about apps being able to trigger real world actions. It's about kind of automation in the background. So I'm not 100% sure how this one works, but basically you can walk into a room and the phone knows you've walked into a new room. It can then, maybe it's your gym, and it can then start playing your workout music, for example.
How does that
all without you interacting, and the app doesn't need to be open or in focus. It's using something they call Nearby Interaction Framework. It uses Bluetooth LE. So
is that iBeacons?
I think this is an evolution of iBeacons and also using ultra wideband.
Yeah, because iBeacons obviously is nothing new. That came out 10 years ago, didn't it? iBeacons technology, but in the ability, as you say, detection. But you're right. This has got to be an evolution app because how else would the phone be able to be aware of its location without something telling it? And as you say, ultra wideband technology. So there's something installed somewhere, isn't it? Communicating. Your phone picks it up, as you say. The app launches or the app plays, but it's a nice feature. I could see that being abused.
Yeah, definitely. We'll see how it all works out. It wasn't in the main event; it was in one of the dev sessions I picked up on the news earlier. So I'm keen to see more on that.
I mean, some of those work already. I mean, I've seen that before with apps pop up, don't they? In some stores and stuff like that. Again, with the iBeacon feature, things like that. Yeah. And obviously, you get time sensitive notifications. And like for travel, the wallet app pops up your boarding pass, which then says, do you want to launch the app? So there are kind of ways and means that, but it's quite an interesting one. I'll give you that. The other thing I saw was Maps, and Maps now got a bit of an overhaul in it. So there's now a new map kit
updates,
so devs can add in more images. There are server-side IP upgrades, API upgrades, the ability to add more of the Apple Map capabilities into your own apps as well. So if you're building something that leverages the map, also now you can do 15 stop trips, which I thought was like, what? And then I kind of realized what they meant was like if you're planning like a long road trip or something, isn't it? You can add in
across America. Yeah.
The other one I saw was the News app as well. So the News app's getting an ability to follow your sports team. So I'm surprised it didn't have that already. It proves how much I use it. So you can now follow your own favorite teams, and it'll bring in highlights of that, and it'll also apparently link to the Apple TV app as well to show you content or things like that as well. So I guess that's quite cool.
Baseball.
Yeah, if it's baseball, yeah. Well, where I am at the moment is the NBA Finals at the moment, so I'm guessing that would be something you could follow. Yeah. And then the other one, of course, was around Apple Wallet, wasn't it? And managing things like the transit cards, the ability to do Apple Pay order tracking as well. So you can have like receipts information, Apple tracking of Apple Pay purchases. The transit card will now update and show you whether your balances are low. So if you've got a transit card where you have to top up, you'll now be able to see that balance on the screen.
And if you've even got enough to do the trip you're taking as well, isn't it?
That's right, yeah. So where I am at the moment, I went to get when I landed here, I get the transit system, and you have to buy a card, to use on the transit system.
Right.
And I've always picked up a card because you pay, it's just like on the London system, the Oyster card sort of equivalent.
Yes. Oh yeah.
But of course, I forgot where I was, and of course, this is the home of Apple, and I could have used my phone as a virtual transit card, like with the way we do in London, where you just tap and go. And I was like, afterwards, I was like, oh, that could have saved me $3, but that's another story. So there's another thing. Apparently, Apple also said, didn't they? They said that Apple Pay was going to be available in millions, that was their words, not mine, of stores that will no longer require updates to their payments terminals. But they didn't really elaborate on that, did they?
No, they did not. No. They spent more time talking about their buy now, pay later scheme.
Well, I was just going to say that before we kind of move on to the safety check, because I think they probably go hand in hand if you ask me. So yes, Apple now talking about as you say, Apple Pay buy now, pay later system, which has garnered some pretty negative views from some areas, hasn't it? Because there's a big worry around buy now, pay later. Now, if you're familiar with that services, names like Klarna, ClearPay, whatever, Layaway, whatever, are all similar things, aren't they? That allow you to pay for things, whether that be a purchase of a new pair of trainers, sneakers, whatever you want to call it, clothes, through to other things. And of course, you don't need to have a credit check in some of these services, do they?
Nope.
And then you can pay later. And there are worries from some areas of society that this is fueling a boom in a debt problem, which I can kind of understand, especially in the younger generations of like accessible credit. So for Apple to come out and do this and add it to their system, I suppose is probably a natural evolution of their pay capability.
It is. It's slightly different from the other ones. Obviously, it's interest free. It's only over 6 weeks. It's 4 payments over 6 weeks. So it's a very, very short term. Doesn't require any integration from the person you're buying from. As long as they support Apple Pay, then you just do it with them. When you double click to do your payment, you choose buy now, pay later, and its job's done. Apple's now becoming a bank or a lender, I suppose. But how are they making money out of this if it's interest free?
So
is it a loss leader just to get you to use Apple Pay more?
My view is probably that. So it's according to the sources and information I've read. So it's powered by MasterCard, MasterCard system.
Oh, okay.
So anywhere that Apple Pay is available, and I caveat this, in the US only at the moment, is available both on your device and in applications as well. So if your app supports Apple
US
Pay,
only, is it? Because it didn't show that in the event. There was no star, no.
So
nothing saying it's only US.
So I went off and did some research, and they apparently it is only US at the moment. And as you said, it requires no work from the merchant at all. And then, of course, what this uses is the Apple Pay order tracking that was announced in kind of alongside it, isn't it? So it allows you to then track that. And according to Apple, it's also integrated with Shopify at the moment, which again is a US-based system, isn't it? And again, nothing else. Underwriting it, as far as I can tell, is Goldman Sachs.
Okay, so it's not Apple doing it themselves, because they bought that kind of credit checking agency, didn't they?
Yeah.
Or platform, I should say.
Yeah. So it is interesting. Apparently, I didn't know this. Amazon have also now offered a buy now pay later in the US by a company called Affirm, who I'd not heard of, but they're similar to Klarna and other offering.
Amazon will do that in the UK.
Yeah, but I didn't know they were doing it in the US in a kind of
right.
Yeah, the UK, you're right. I have seen that, but in the UK Amazon, it doesn't appear to be, well, the wording doesn't suggest that it's any third party, does it? It just says Amazon, doesn't it?
No, it's Amazon themselves. I can't remember, is it 3 payments or 5 payments? I can't remember what it is. I have seen it as I gone to buy stuff. Again, that's interest free as well, so it's very tempting for people to do. But I don't think it's just a carte blanche on anything. It's kind of
certain
selective
products
when they do it.
Yeah. And as you say, I mean, it is very popular, and I have to be honest with you, it's also very tempting. But I think the problem is, if I dare say so myself, it does factor in some concern, because it's too easy, isn't it, sometimes just to hit that,
especially after a few drinks.
Yes, you should. Yes. Anyway,
never go late night shopping after drinks.
No. Anyway, we better move on, because we could be here all day. So the other thing that iOS 16 introduced was the safety check system, wasn't it? Then, so do you want to take us away with that?
I could do that. Sorry, the safety check or the security response one? Which one are we talking about?
Safety check, wasn't it? Like the safety check, personal safety features that came.
This is when they kind of announced, say to improve on your personal safety, and they were highlighting people in abusive relationships or who are trying to make a clean break from partners, those kind of things. And I suppose it's just a really central, easy way that you can click one button and log yourself out of every other device that's got iCloud on it, reset all your permissions on your app. So if they're app tracking, for example, if you're using something like is it Life 360, where you can use create a group and everyone can see where you are, to kind of reset the permissions around that, to really kind of close all that off, so people can't track you, they can't see what you're doing, they don't have access to your accounts anymore, all that kind of stuff. So I think it's something you could do before. Most definitely, this is just a nice, easy way to tie it all together and make it very, very simple.
Definitely. And I think you should say one of the things they showed on the screens, wasn't it, was the sharing with people. So it shows all the people that you're sharing location with, you're sharing calendars with, you're sharing in that, and you can remove them straight away or block them, as you say, through this button press. And it does make you wonder, like the emergency reset capability, where basically it locks you out of everything, stops coming into hat, stops messages showing, doesn't it, on the device, that kind of stuff. I can only think, and I hate to say this, I had visions of the US and people being their devices, because before you could set up, couldn't you, where you press the power button at certain times and it removes the biometric stuff, doesn't it? So you can't use your fingers or your Face ID. For the average person in the street, the ability to emergency reset and lock yourself out of all of your sessions is probably something we'd never need to do, unless your device was stolen. That's just a different scenario. But the ability, if you were arrested or something, I just again things that popped into mind was like journalists, who are picked up by authorities and want to like protect their sources. It was, but in a more serious point, given the backlash that they had over the AirTag launch, wasn't it, and the stalking capabilities, this is probably a welcome addition to the privacy and security aspects of iOS and the iPad. But great feature there. Cool. So should we move on to iPadOS? Because again, a lot of similarities there. But let's talk about some of the key features, because again, a lot of the iOS 16 stuff will port over, won't it?
Will do. Right, stop the press. After many years, an outcry. I mean, we are getting a weather app on the iPad, a native weather app by Apple. Just going to let that sink in for you there. No calculator, just a weather app, though. Don't get too excited.
I was building up to that. I was like, no. Which basically looks like the iOS weather app, doesn't it?
It is. It's just on a bigger screen. And why it's taken this many years? Why couldn't we have the calculator at the same time?
What I don't get is though, why couldn't they just launch that last year?
Why wasn't it in there in the beginning for both of those apps? I don't know.
There was. I remember the calculator. There is a whole reason there isn't a calculator on it. I can't remember, isn't it? There is. I can't remember something to do with it. I remember reading. I'm sure I read somewhere once before was why there was no calculator app on the iPad, and it was something to do with Steve Jobs. And the original, I don't know. I think it's some kind of
law with an Apple. There will be no calculator, otherwise you lose your job.
There's some rumor. I don't know. It's probably a complete urban legend, but apparently there's some urban legend that I think that when they were demoing it, Steve Jobs hated the fact that they'd just blown up the iPhone calculator onto the iPad, and it apparently didn't. It looked too stupid because it was too big. It was massive. Of course, it just looked overinflated, and he was like, that's terrible. You can't just. It just looks like a Fisher Price kiddies toy, And apparently, they've never changed that.
It's in scientific mode to start off with.
Yeah, I don't know. That's probably not quite the story, but it's funny anyway. But yeah, so we got Weather App then. What else did we get? Because they brought in some other key features in there as well.
They did. Stage Manager.
Oh, yes.
This makes sense to me on the iPad. It does not on the Mac, but we'll talk about that one when we get to Mac. So how do we explain? So basically, Stage Manager finally for the iPad is enabling windowed apps and full support for external displays, which aren't just a mirror of your normal display. But Stage Manager's a bit odd. I'm trying to think how we explain this one. I suppose it's really app groupings. You can group a load of apps together into a group, obviously it's grouping, and switch between those groups by clicking these huge icons on a new bar down the left-hand side of the display. It's very hard to explain it. It's one of those ones you'll need to go and see, and we'll put a link in the show notes.
Yeah, so it took me a while to wrap my head around this as well, and like you say, what it looks like, you say, to kind of visualize this for the moment, I guess, as this is video, is you've got an external display connected to your iPad, and as you say, you've got the dock at the bottom. On the left-hand side, you've got these groups, haven't you? Like almost like mini screenshots. But I guess
not just on external displays. You can do this
on the iPad as well.
Display.
Yeah.
But
I guess to kind of carry those two things on, I tell you what it reminded me of. On Windows 10, when is it Alt Tab, and you can. There's similar, isn't it, where you can flip through the windows on. Is it? I can't remember if it's Alt Tab or the other one or Windows and Tab, where you can. It shows you all of the.
It's slightly different. So Alt Tab is your traditional task switcher.
What's the other one? The other
tabs. It brings up mini pictures of all your things.
That's what I meant. Yeah.
Displays. You can see your virtual desktops and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so it kind of it looks a bit like that, the little grouping of all the open applications, doesn't it? In a pile there.
It does.
But it just looks clunky. It just looks so clunky.
It's jarring. It doesn't fit in with the rest of the design of the OS.
It doesn't. But the fact that I think there was, to kind of take something positive away from it, though, the ability to use a second screen with your iPad and have that second screen display different windows to what is on your iPad is a game changer for the iPad. I'm not talking about game changer in technology, but of course, a game changer for the iPad. So realistically now, you can you take your iPad, use it as a personal computer if you've got maybe a mouse and a keyboard with it or the trackpad case, and you can leverage that second screen to show different content and work effectively. Because at the moment, as you said, it's just a mirror. That's not a good experience, is it really?
I mean, there are some limitations and some big limitations. So you can only have up to 8 apps or windows, and it supports up to 6K on your external space. That's not really a limitation. The big limitation is you're going to need an M1 powered iPad for this.
That's
even if you don't want the external display, even if you just want the app windows and multitasking, you still need an M1. So we won't be able to test this anytime soon because we don't have M1 iPads, and that's a big cost increase just to test that feature out.
But it starts to justify why they put the M1 in the iPad, I suppose. Some of these key features in it, and also again the M1 powered iPads, I'm about to say Mac then, iPads, of course, can power up external displays up to 6K. So you get 8 apps can be displayed simultaneously, 4 on the iPad, 4 on the external display.
Yeah.
And of course, what they demoed, if you haven't seen the keynote, they demoed using the, what do they call it? I want to say Office style apps, isn't it? Pages, Keynote, those kind of things. And on that as well. So it's kind of, it's a good way to use it. I am interested to see how it works. Where will I use my iPad more as a personal computer? I don't know. I think if this is usable, I can't see why not, because if I'm using cloud applications and I'm just using email, then actually I'm going to have a lot of the features set here, aren't I? But time will tell.
And one thing, I wasn't sure if it's M1 specific, but probably not. You can adjust the DPI of the apps. So hopefully we'll fit more information on the screen. So hopefully that'll work on all iPads. So it will make even the non-M1s, we can only have, one window side by side. And I'd see more information at once, especially if you've got a larger iPad like you, Jay. You've got the 12.9, I think.
Yes, mine's about 3 generations old now, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, mine's 4. So.
But yeah, it's cool. So we got that then. So we got additional new apps as well, didn't we? That came along with.
We did. We got those big enhancements to collaboration stuff, didn't we?
That's right.
So so there was a real push this time throughout the event about collaboration. So you'll be able to start collaborating directly from Office apps, and when I say Office apps, I mean Apple's ones, not Microsoft's. So Pages, Sheets, that kind of stuff. You'll be able to start. You'll be able to click the share thing and say, right, I want to invite these 3 or 4 people, or however many people, to collaborate on this document. They'll all get invited via iMessage. They can just click the link in iMessage, go straight into a sharing session where you'll all be able to see what everyone's doing, as well as where they're looking on the documents. So
Office already does this, as in Microsoft Office already has these capabilities. Yeah,
I was doing this earlier. I had a performance review. It's that time of the year in my work, and we were collaborating on a Word document, me and my manager together, and you can see what they're doing, what they're typing in real time. So yeah, it's kind of very much like that. It had some cool ease of use features. So you're able to click the person's icon and see exactly where they are on the page and what they're doing, rather than you scrabbling around for it. What else do we get there?
Freeform.
Freeform. That's the whiteboard, isn't it? I've just written down whiteboard. But
yeah,
it's called
Freeform. It's called Freeform. Yeah, which is, as you say, it is a shared. It's a whiteboard, a shared whiteboard, isn't it? That you can
it is.
Collaborate with colleagues on. Again, our friends at Microsoft already had I think a similar app called Canvas, didn't they? Which is
Canvas,
I've got it on my iPad actually. Now I've said that again, similar capability you can do collaboration with. At the end of the day, Apple again is not innovating here; it's just refining, isn't it?
But it was making it slick, and you could jump straight into a FaceTime meeting from within your document to all talk about the document you're working on at the same time. So they've taken it, they haven't introduced anything revolutionary; they've just made it more slick. But
and actually,
my big
looks good.
but here. So go ahead before I do my but.
I was just going to say it does look good. I mean, the Freeform app.
Yeah.
It's obviously the key killer here is Apple Pencil support, but you can drop in. I think they showed document types you could drop in, so images, PDFs, other stuff into that canvas as well. But go on, what's your but? What's but?
If we're all about collaboration, how does this work on platforms that aren't Apple?
Sorry, there are no other platforms for Apple.
I'm going to guess it doesn't, which makes collaboration harder because you can't guarantee everyone is in the Apple ecosystem.
Like I just said, there aren't. I don't know what you're on about. There are no other ecosystems, are there?
I'm currently recording this podcast from a fictional system that does not exist. It's magic.
I'm just talking into the ether and it works. No, you are right. I think this is the thing. This is definitely this is a lock-in capability, but I don't think that's going to change anytime soon, though, is it? But one of the other things they did overhaul was the folder app, wasn't it, or Files application for iPadOS, which looks very, very close now to what you're getting on macOS. There are kind of
they called it their desktop apps something or other initiative. Basically, bring that more advanced desktop features in the apps to the iPad apps, like you mentioned, the ability to view folder sizes, change file extensions within the file manager.
Which is, again, if you want to use it as a desktop computer or personal computer, you need to have these capabilities there. Though I guess for Apple, this is starting to break some of those covenants, isn't it, that they had where the iPad
Yes.
wasn't a desktop computer. It was that kind of space in the middle. But now,
It was between your phone and your computer. And yeah,
and I
by
think
doing this, do they
yeah,
stop people from buying computers?
I don't think you will. I think there's always going to be a
No.
need for that. And that's why you're never going to see pure Mac OS or capabilities on iPad,
No.
because it's going to cannibalize either or. But it's good to see. So we saw that, didn't we? So that's the other thing. What else we get? Stage manager. We talked about freeform. We got
We got
weather.
reference color mode for the
Yes,
professionals out
for the
there.
M1. That was for the M1 powered iPads, wasn't it? As
It
well.
was. Support wise, and we didn't mention that on iOS 16. iOS 16, you're going to need an iPhone 8 or above now. They're chopping off support for the 6S and the 7.
Again,
7S.
not surprised by that. Apple are pretty generous though in terms of
They are.
how far back with the hardware support, and you can't have everything. And that's not a dig against anybody else, because Android is very similar in that respect. So you're not going to be able to support all kinds of hardware. So that's it.
No, exactly.
One of the other things that they did get, we didn't talk about this, the other one was passkeys, wasn't it? Which I think is probably a good place to cover this.
We did, yes.
So passkeys,
Passkeys.
then.
So,
go on.
yeah, I'll say this is their crack at well, not their crack.
Passwordless,
it's in conjunction with Google and Microsoft and the FIDO Alliance. But yeah, it's their passwordless logins. So you'll be able to log into websites without providing a username and password, but instead authenticating with Touch or Face ID. And say it's using that framework that the FIDO Alliance has already built out there. They're working in conjunction with Google and Microsoft. Though whether this means I can use my iPhone to log into a website on a Windows laptop or in a browser that isn't Safari on my Mac,
who knows?
I'm going to go on a limb and probably say no. But there's no reason you shouldn't be able to if it's using the same framework. But we'll see. They were scant on details, weren't they? But it did look very, very cool. It's about time we got away from passwords if we can.
Yeah, so there was a couple of the interesting tidbits to this as well, wasn't it? So they're saying that this is not going to be stored in the cloud. So these are going to be stored or hashed locally on the device, in the same way that they encrypt the biometric data that you use for Face ID or Touch ID. So
it was using iCloud to sync it between devices. Just
but that's no different to sharing a private key from like in certificate or encryption, isn't it? So, but they're not going to be sharing or storing this in iCloud, in any other sense.
Okay.
Because I think they're trying to say that if there's a data breach or they're phished or whatever, the physical
they did have
device.
a punt at the other cloud providers, didn't they, with cloud-hosted password sharing?
Yeah, but again, I think you should say this is a good first attempt where we're going. I like the concept. There are already aspects of this you see coming up on some things where it gets you to sign in on your phone. Android does this already. I've seen several times with Google because I've got a Pixel, as we know. It gets me to sign in on the phone to open on the web. I like that. I like that kind of secondary factor authentication piece of it, and do that. And again, because so much is on that phone and the ecosystem that I live in, I think it's a good idea, And if I can use Face ID on my phone to log into something on the web, because let's say I'm sat at home, I've not got my laptop up as I have now with a camera in front of me, but I've got in the docking station, and I've got my phone next to me. I'd quite happily pick up my phone, look at my phone to unlock my password manager or something like that. I think it's a really good concept. But again, we need to see how this works properly and whether or not it extends outside of the Apple ecosystem and applications. That will be the deal breaker.
It will, definitely, yeah.
Cool.
Right, so watch OS 9.
I was just going to say, before we go into watch OS 9 and I don't know, actually, let's quickly talk about macOS Ventura, I guess, first, if that's okay. Because I wanted to just mention, I was going to jump ahead and I didn't want to throw you, because I meant to say we didn't talk about rapid response, but it probably makes sense to talk about macOS first and then we can talk about rapid response.
Yeah, of course. So the headline feature for macOS Ventura, as it's called, was Stage Manager. The same one we just talked about.
Hang on a minute. We've been here before, haven't we?
We have, but where it's a bit contrived on iPad, it's really, really contrived on macOS and just looks so out of place.
I think
I don't get it on macOS. I just don't get it. I mean, you've already got a dock, you've already got mission control, you've already got virtual desktops. What are they called? Spaces, isn't it, on Mac
I'm using
OS?
I'm using a virtual desktop to talk to you now. So I've got 3 desktops on my Mac.
So
One
you've
is my
already
work
got this
environment.
app
Yeah,
grouping, haven't you? You've already
yeah.
got that there. You've already got mission control to quickly switch between them, or keyboard. I just don't get it. I'm not the only one. A lot of Twitter doesn't get it for Mac
No,
OS.
it looks hideous. It looks clunky. It just looks like, I
Yeah,
like small refined applications and icon information. To see these
this is in your
clunky
face.
different app groups on the left hand side of my screen, just to me, it's like, what the hell are you doing, Apple? I mean, have you run out of ideas here or something?
It
Um,
is. I've always
uh,
struggled with Windows management on Mac. I don't get it. Windows does it so much better.
yeah,
And this just is even more bizarre.
yeah. To be quite honest with you, it is bizarre. So I mean, Stage Manager aside, then, because I think we could have a whole podcast on talking about how terrible
We
Stage
could
Manager
do.
is.
So what else
What
did we
else did we
get? We
get
got
then?
so lovely and nice. I liked it. I really liked this one. Nice improvements to Safari. The sharing groups of tabs with other users, so you can all collaborate on a group of tabs together. If you're
That was right.
planning
Yeah.
something, you all want to look at this. So that was really, really cool. I like the idea of that one. Obviously, we got passkeys they announced. We just talked about this one. I just presumed was there. FaceTime calls can now be handed off seamlessly between Macs and iDevices.
I saw. Yeah, I didn't. So that's something that hasn't been there, but now that's a very, very handy.
I've used it on Teams all the time. I jump from my desktop to my phone,
I do the
my
same.
phone
Yeah,
to
yeah.
my desktop, and it's just seamless. I just thought this was part of handoff anyway in FaceTime, but apparently not.
Not at all. So that's, again, I think a nice feature. Again, nothing new, but refining the experience. There was overhaul as well to Mail as well. The Apple built-in Mail
There
app has
was,
got
yep.
big overhauls there. So again, giving you better search capabilities, allowing you to schedule, a bit similar to the iOS capabilities again. There's also a bit like Outlook as well. It does well in Microsoft Outlook has a capability. You've probably seen it called Insight, hasn't it? When you look at calendar and things like that, that tells you whether or not there are attachments or stuff. Well, now Mail does that as well, and also can detect things that if you've added an attachment or you've mentioned in your Mail app, please see attachment, but you haven't added that.
Add one,
yeah. So it tells you that as well. Also does a lot about the recover reminders, and again, one I thought was good was about automatic suggestions to follow up on an email if somebody hasn't replied to you, which I thought was quite cool.
Some very good things. My favourite though was Apple have finally admitted their webcams are crap.
So I'm glad you brought this up. This is hilarious. Absolutely hilarious.
It was brilliant.
What are they? So this is continuity camera, isn't it?
Is that what it's called? I couldn't quite remember the name. But this is an adapter, a MagSafe adapter, to slap your iPhone to the lid of your Mac. It doesn't look very secure, if I'm going to be honest.
Oh my God.
And therefore use your iPhone as a webcam. It'll be a very good webcam. Because I've used my iPhone on Windows as a webcam, and it is very, very good. And it enables a lot of other features on Mac. So you'll get, what's the one where it follows you around the room? I forgot the name for it now. Stage time? No.
No, center stage. Center stage, isn't it?
Center stage, that's what. So that enables center stage. You can use the flash on the camera as a kind of temporary ring light.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else? You can do some weird hybrid camera where it shows your face, but then it shows what's on your desktop as you're working. So if you're doing a review of something maybe, and you're fiddling with something on your desk, you can see that as well as you. I think that was using the ultra wide camera. And it's wireless. It's all done wireless. I didn't see any wires there. But
this
yeah, that was a big admittance this is a big admittance that the webcams are rubbish on Mac. We've all known that for many, many years. They are terrible.
This is just crazy, though, in my opinion, because this, when I say crazy, crazy as in
the studio display, and now with your huge chunking £1,400 webcam.
I mean, this is no different, though, to some respect, to people, the ability from Sony and Canon, etc., who allow you to use your DSLR as a webcam. So you've got, let's be honest, this iPhone sat here in my hand
They're not
now.
correcting for crap webcams on their other products.
No. Bear with me. I'm going to come around to
This is
that.
for professionals. All right, go for it.
So here you've got, not be funny, you have got here in my hand, same as you've got to your side, my iPhone here with what actually has got some pretty damn good cameras on it, hasn't it? Especially if you've got an iPhone 13 Pro, you've got a pretty impressive camera system there. So actually, why wouldn't you want to leverage that, to be honest with you? However, your point is the same. If you've got the same as I've got my Sony DLSS, I can use that as a webcam because they're quite high end. You and I have both got pretty decent webcams at home that we use on top of our monitors.
That didn't cost £500.
No,
dollars, sorry.
But the webcam on a Mac is shocking. I cannot lie to you. I have one here. I'm looking at it whilst I'm not on camera. It is terrible. I don't understand, given all of the camera tech that Apple have, why they cannot build in a decent webcam to the Mac. And you're right.
It's surely not a ability of can't at this point.
It's
ability
won't.
Of don't want to. Don't want to.
No,
because they could just take the camera. They could even just take the front-facing camera module of the iPhone 12 Pro I've got here, slap that. It's small. Stick that in your Mac. It'll give a much better picture.
And so what you've got, like you say, is you've got this what appears to be MagSafe adapter, doesn't it? The MagSafe's onto the back of your phone, clips to the top of your Mac.
But it doesn't. It's not. Yeah, it doesn't use MagSafe to connect to the lid. It looks like it's just got some kind of lip that goes over on the phone. Yeah,
so it's got
very secure connected to the back of the Mac.
No, it's like, as you say, it's like a little lip, isn't it, onto the clips to the top of the screen. But the MagSafe adapter is what clips to your phone on the back. Now, I won't lie to you. I like this as much as I don't want to use it. What I do like about it, though, is the desk view, because if you are doing a tutorial or a video or something, and you that ability to showcase what you're doing with your hands on the desk. Now that's a really useful feature. We've all seen YouTube videos, haven't we, before, where somebody's demonstrating, I don't know, fixing something or whatever, so that it double screen. So that's quite a good way to do it. But
definitely,
I've got two questions for you. One, how much is this going to cost? Because that dongle isn't going to be cheap, is it? And two, will they allow third-party manufacturers to build their own versions of that dongle? Because surely
they did mention
it was. I missed that bit. Okay, all right, okay. Because actually, none of this is going to cost you anything, is it? Theoretically, apart from the dongle.
Yeah, exactly. And the bigger question is, and this is going to happen, when your iPhone falls off your thing and breaks, is it covered by AppleCare?
No, that's not covered in AppleCare. That's not covered in AppleCare.
It's so going to fall off. You're going to pick up your laptop without thinking you're going to knock it. It's just going to fall off to the floor and break.
Yeah, I know.
Do you need the adapter? Can I, in fact, just put my phone on a tripod and use the same thing? Because there's no reason I need the dongle. It's all software. But we'll see. They didn't release that information.
No, I agree with you. I don't know. But, I mean, look. All I'll say to you is, I am quite interested to try it. I'm for all the knocking of it, I'm interested to try it. I won't lie to you.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested to see it. So I have used an iPhone as a webcam on a Windows PC before, using a bit of software from Elgato. It worked very, very well. It's very high quality. I just can't afford to have my phone up there all the time because I actually need to use it.
No, you're granted. That's it. So, along with the other updates we've kind of talked about with passkeys and some of the other features, again, Ventura hasn't had a massive overhaul, I think, this year compared to the mobile operating systems.
There was one other security feature I saw though, was the fact that from Ventura, when you plug in a USB or Thunderbolt accessory, it's going to require the user's approval before the data channels are enabled, and it can speak directly to your Mac.
Oh, that's quite cool. I missed that.
It will charge if it's power. It was fine. It wasn't in the main speech. I picked up on the news later on. Power will work straight away. But if it tries to initiate any data connection, it will require the user's approval. Like you get on I'm sure you get on the phone now, don't you?
Yeah, you do. It says, that's right, to use the USB accessory, doesn't it?
Device or something. Yeah, exactly. You have to approve it or trust it or whatever. Well, that's coming to Mac as well.
Do you know, that's interesting. I wonder whether or not there'll be any APIs to have that in any of the management systems, like Jamf or any of the competitors.
Oh, I bet there will be, definitely.
Because there is a whole set of companies that do endpoint security management that have security, don't they, around managing USB drives and stuff like that.
They've
So,
all just been Sherlocked again.
well, they have. Some of them, of course, have got tracking, but yeah, you're right. A lot of them have just been Sherlock, as you say there. Yeah. So the other big update though to Ventura was around Metal, wasn't it? So that's Apple's
Yes.
graphics engine, isn't it? So,
Oh, excuse me. Yeah.
so they talked about gaming again, didn't they?
Oh God. Even my son who watches it with me, he's 12. He goes, Apple don't really do gaming. Why are they showing us this
No,
again?
no, they don't. They don't. They don't. You don't.
But they are introducing some upgrade to Metal called MetalFX Upscaling, aren't they? So we've talked about AMD's Fidelity Super Resolution and Nvidia's DLSS before. This is Apple's interpretation of it. I couldn't work out if it was using any AI for the upscaling like DLSS or whether it was just an image scaling process like FSR.
I'm not entirely sure. But they have, like you say, this is gaming and Apple, and there are two. This is not the same thing. You know,
No.
the
They did
upscaling
show some
part is,
actual 3D games though, didn't they?
yeah, I was going to say the upscaling part is pretty good tech here, given the fact of like there is a lot of graphics capability built in the M1 chip
Yep,
systems,
definitely.
and they are quite powerful GPUs compared to their PC cousins. If we
Onboard
were just
graphics. Yep.
if we talk about onboard graphics, they are probably in many cases more powerful and have a lot
Oh,
more,
than the onboard. Definitely more powerful.
way more. But the leveraging that capability is something Apple really haven't been doing. But so yeah, you're saying AMD's Fidelity FX, and of course we've got Nvidia's DLSS
DLSS.
capabilities do very similar, give you upscaling, give you sampling improvements
Mm.
to improve your gaming as well. But yeah, I'm not. I'm not entirely sure because, as you say, they demonstrated it with two games, didn't they? One of
No
which was
Man's Sky
no,
and
it was it No Man's Sky,
what was the other one? Oh,
Resident Evil
Resident Evil
Village.
Village. Yes.
Yeah,
No, did you watch that during the announcement? Did you get what I meant? Because I texted you when you were on your plane, didn't you? I was
yeah.
like, it's not looking very smooth
No,
or very good.
No Man's Sky. I don't know whether it was a video or what. Just, I mean, it
It was
looked
like a frame
pretty.
dropped.
Yes, yeah, yeah. I
Yeah, it wasn't the slick I was expecting from an Apple event, and I thought
no,
maybe it was a YouTube video, but I watched the one on the Apple site later. It was the same. It very much looked like it was maybe running at 20 FPS, whilst the
yeah.
video was shot at 30. And yeah, there was some frame drops. It definitely doesn't look as good as it does on the PC.
No. I mean, don't get me wrong. We, PC with our RTX, 20 series, 30 series are impressive.
Yeah,
It didn't look. It looked very colourful. It was a great picture because, again, those displays are pretty stunning, aren't they?
yeah,
But
definitely.
It didn't look. It didn't look like you say as good as it could have done. Given the games that they mentioned there, or was it Resident Evil Village as well? And do that. So basically, it's allowing you to render those more, I guess, intensive screens, isn't it? The more frames
Yeah,
that can be done. And again, it's leveraging, new APIs that Apple have put together for developers to take advantage of to basically bring in a lot of the what's the word I'm looking for? Resources, the kind of
yeah.
the frames, the textures, all that kind of stuff. Again, I suppose if you think about Apple, the distance from the memory and the storage to the chips is a lot shorter, and because of those pathways
It
that
is.
they
Yeah,
built and the messaging and the buses they put in, theoretically speaking, there's no reason why you couldn't have a better experience and load quicker than on an equivalent Windows system. But I don't
yeah.
know, it isn't there. It just isn't there in my view compared to the PC ecosystem. You're getting
I
better.
kind of. I wish they'd not done Metal and instead used an industry standard like Vulkan.
Yeah, but Apple never do. They won't do that because
Just they would have. What? Yeah. The problem is developers probably aren't going to develop their game for Mac OS
no.
because they have to learn it all new again. If they'd done Vulkan, they could have just reported or whatever, recompiled for Mac using the same Vulkan APIs, the majority of the work's done. You would have got a lot more games, more time spent on the actual optimization of those games to work slicker on the Mac rather than having to learn and optimize for another platform.
Yeah,
but Apple were never going to do that. So
no, they're not going to do that. They're not going to do that. So then, let's, because we are keeping the interest time. Hopefully, if you're still with us, thanks for sticking with us. If not, we'll keep talking anyway. So just a couple of things, I guess, that showed up in macOS was, well, actually not just macOS, but of course, alongside iPadOS, is the new, what do I just call it? Security response, isn't it? So new security response system that's going to push out updates for iOS, iPadOS, and macOS then. So normally, obviously, we get full system patches, don't we? That come down, several hundred meg or gig, and it's a full install and a reboot, isn't it? Across a device platform.
That's right.
But this is changing that now, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we're getting security as a separate update. Is that right?
They are very much like Microsoft do. So you get your security patches separate from your feature and your bug patches, and these are actually going to be installed automatically with no user input. They said they won't require a reboot at all. Though I suspect occasionally there might be. I mean, depending how fundamental the security issue is, I suspect sometimes you might have to a reboot. But they were saying no reboots at all. They will do this automatically, take care of security for you.
I like this. I think this is actually a feature that we probably could have done with a long time ago. Given, the fact of security patches becoming, I guess, a lot more frequent, aren't they? To update against vulnerabilities, mitigate against new threats in the wild. And there's nothing worse than having to do a whole hard system reboot just to get those. So again, as you say, Microsoft's been doing this. Android already do that with Google. They've split. Google do that with Android. Excuse me, the other way around. They split the updates out to security and system patches. So again, I think this is a good way to do it. And given the fact that Apple are constantly now chasing, new CVEs, let's go look at the Pegasus situation of recent times. This is definitely a better way for them now to push those out. And again, especially across, and again, it's across all of the platforms. So they haven't just said this is on Mac; it will support the mobile operating systems as well. So I'm pleased to see this, and this is something I think about time. That's the only way to really describe it. Definitely. Cool.
Okay.
So what we got left? So there's two other things, I guess. WatchOS then. Go on. Tell us about WatchOS then.
As usual, it's all about health and fitness. So, and there's some good ones actually. I really need to upgrade my watch, but it also, I really need to. But fitness, we're getting expanded workout metrics, including heart rate zones, as well as more running-specific data such as vertical oscillation, stride length, ground contact time, and power in watts. We're getting ghost mode. Oh, that's what I've called it. Who remembers the ghost car in Ridge Racer? You go around, the ghost car was your previous lap record, wasn't it? And you can race against it. Stick with me here. This is what we're getting for your running. So you'll be able to, any of the running, not tracks, or routes you've done before, you'll be able to enable ghost mode. Apple are not calling it that, but basically you'll be able to race against yourself, and you'll get updates telling you where you are. Are you ahead of the pace, but behind the pace from your last time? You'll get voice alerts, all that to do with it. Sounds quite good to me.
Good. I think Ghost Mode. We should get that trademarked. That's pretty awesome.
Ghost Mode TM.
So this is definitely right. So this is a feature that showed up actually in other. I think Garmin have got this capability on their devices as well. So now, as you say, it has all that capability. You can also see zone information, can't you? So you can see your heart rate, in the zone, if you will, that you're running. It also has multi-sport capability as well. So you can now, I guess if you're doing a triathlon or something like that, it can swap between the sports as you're doing it, but still continue to track you, which I guess is probably something at the moment is missing. Well, I know it's missing because it isn't there. So all of those kind of capabilities there. Also updates again to the workouts now, can't they, as well? So you can now set goals for your pace, your power, your heart rate. Again, if you're looking to track your heart rate, and that's there as well. And again, as you mentioned, all of those haptic alerts and feedback will come back as well. So that's pretty sweet. The health with the health side of things as well. There was
better AFib detection, haven't we?
That's the one I was looking at.
Sleep tracking, So
they're
going to give you, what was it? So that's what they're giving you there. So a history feature to give you estimates as to how long the user spends in AFib. I didn't write too many notes down on that one. I wrote some more on sleep. So the sleep, they're going to use the accelerometer and your heart rate data to track your sleep patterns for what stages you're on, whether you're
This is
REM,
kind of
deep
cool.
or
Yeah,
core sleep.
I like the look of that, and I think because the sleep tracking I use all the time, it's quite useful just to see,
Yeah.
understand, when you're awake in that. But I think now if they can truly track those sleep phases, I'd be keen to see, like where
Very
am I deepest
interested. Yeah.
asleep? Yeah, it's just good to know. The AFib part again, as you're right, the historical tracking there, the ability to show that data again will be to doctors in the US because it's cleared by the
Mm.
FDA. Hopefully that'll
Yep.
be the same here in the UK. And again,
Got
there was
medicine
more.
app.
Medicine app, that was the other one. Thank you. So this is a part of the health app on the phone as well, isn't it? So you can now
Yes, phone,
uh,
not just your watch. Yep.
put in the medications that you're on, and it'll now tell you information about those medications. It also tells you what you should take with them as well, isn't it? So don't
Well,
have, I
that's
know,
the
don't.
US only, though. The
Yeah,
Danish international is US only, but yeah, you can
it's
put your
very cool
medicine
though.
in, can't you? You can create schedules and reminders. Just take your medicine as well, which I think is quite handy. Yeah, it's safe. We'll see more when that one comes out, but it was a nice little additional app there.
Definitely. So WatchOS 9 will support the Watch Series 4 and obviously new devices.
I think that'll be my last one with the Watch 4. I think the last
Yeah.
update I'll
Oh,
get.
what was the other one? There was that was it. There was a new UI update, wasn't there? That was it. I had somewhere assistive
The
touch again,
banners.
wasn't it? Yeah.
Oh, not assistive. I was going to say the banners. So when you get notifications and you're using your app, it's very annoying. It takes up the whole screen, doesn't it? So you're now going to get banners if you're actually using the watch at the time the notification comes in. So like the phone.
So it doesn't say, I see, if you're doing some sport and you've got the tracking there, it doesn't remove the tracking off your thing. Like you say,
No.
it just pops up. So yeah, very good. The assistive touch piece now gives you, I think, was it double pinching to pick up phone calls, stop workouts. You can also control the phone on your. You can also control the watch on your phone as well now with screen mirroring.
Ah,
So
interesting.
again, more accessibility there as well. But yeah, definitely, another good update to the OS. Again, you're right. Some of this will probably require a new watch at some point, though, to get the best of the world.
I think so. All
So
right, moving swiftly on. What else we got? We got HomeKit, don't we?
HomeKit, then,
So
yeah. So a complete redesign
very
for
brief.
HomeKit, wasn't there?
Yeah, new redesign of the app from the ground up. They announced their support for Matter, which is the new industry
Woo!
standard coming out later in the year. This was very interesting. So Corey Wang, who's their producer of human interfaces, said that Apple actually contributed HomeKit as the foundation of Matter.
Oh wow!
So Matt supports a lot of HomeKit's core principles, including the highest levels of security and privacy. I did not know that. I knew Apple was actually I think a founding member, but I didn't realize they contributed a lot of HomeKit to it.
I guess this is we bash Apple for standardization and things like that sometimes, but the truth is they do a lot of work behind the scenes. I mean, USB-C was
They
one
do.
of they contributed to that, didn't they?
Yep.
Quite heavily, as you
Firewire.
say. FireWire, Matter here, of course. So for their due, it would be good to see some industry standardization in the apps, and it clearly seems that the HomeKit is going to have all of that.
Yep.
And it does mean that they're going to bring in more capabilities, aren't they? More accessory support in HomeKit, I guess, that have been missing in the past, I suppose. And if Matter supports it, Apple will too now. Then I hope.
We'll see how much of an open standard it is. Because I did see the announcement on Home Assistant, the automation platform I used for my house, that they're going to be supporting Matter soon. They're now part of the alliance as well. So we'll see how open the standard actually is.
Yeah, like a lot of these things, it depends on how far you want to go down the rabbit hole, isn't it?
I'll be going down that rabbit hole definitely.
Well, yeah, I'd probably be following you, so I wouldn't worry. Leave some crumbs, I'll follow down.
I will.
So the navigation in
CarPlay.
HomeKit. Oh, I was going to say, to quickly say about HomeKit, though, the navigation's been added
Yep.
because one of the things was around new navigation bar at the top, because that's the one thing I find really struggle with HomeKit. So you now get like a kind of categorization in your houses by device type, and there's also updates for camera support was in there now. So you now get
Yep.
a view of all of your cameras as opposed to a stacked view. And what was the other thing I saw as well as again? I think there was something around the controls. I can't remember my notes now. I think, yeah, it was just around the controls there as well. But yes, sorry, let's talk about CarPlay, because this is, well, let's talk about CarPlay as in you can get today.
Right, so the CarPlay in iOS 16. So
yes,
normal CarPlay. Not a lot has changed.
Normal CarPlay.
Normal CarPlay. So we're getting a couple of new app categories. So, and by categories, I mean categories of applications. So you'll be able to get fueling-based apps and driving task apps. I'm not sure what driving tasks apps are, but they'll be basically we're bringing more apps to the CarPlay interface.
I think what they mean by that is things like toll payment applications. So, like I guess in the US,
could well be, yeah.
for toll apps, I think it also things like like road information, like I guess speeding cameras or traffic and that kind of stuff. That's what I think. Yeah,
it's handy. I mean, there were some updates to Siri to make it a bit easier to use Siri during the car, especially in relation to messages. There was some podcast. The podcast app has been expanding its library.
Oh, thank God, because I use podcast app all the time when I'm driving, and it's terrible.
But that was about it for normal CarPlay.
Yes.
Let's move on to next gen CarPlay preview.
Oh, yes. This is groundbreaking, isn't it?
It was. So the demo was great. I mean, a lot more modern new cars come with so many screens now. Everything's got a screen. You've got a screen in front of your steering wheel. There's huge screens across the dashboard, everywhere. Now, CarPlay, the next gen, is looking to take over all of those screens, including the one in front of your steering wheel. So yeah, you're going to be able to take over your digital dash, completely customize it, so you're able to move around where your speedo is, your rev counter. Is that speedo digital? Is it analog? What color is it? What fonts are you using? All those kind of stuff. Yeah, it's just taking over your entire car, and this is just CarPlay on steroids. And
so this is very similar to what BlackBerry have with QNX, though, isn't it? So the QNX operating system that BlackBerry have powers a lot of cars today, and it does. Yeah, this is very, as you say, next gen. This is unbelievable. I mean, the screens they showed of like the dashboard, with the steering wheel, as you say, and all that kind of stuff, kind of made me think of was it Mercedes? With their digital dashes across the whole of the
MBUX or something.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, we where the whole it goes all the way along, doesn't it? Very similar like that. I mean, this is impressive. None of it again has not been seen before, I guess, in some form or shape with other manufacturers. But
we've had rumors, and we've talked about it before, haven't we? About that integration with the car systems to bring up the speed, and not just that. Control things, so control the aircon, the lighting in the car, all that kind of stuff from the CarPlay interface. It's very, very good. Though I have a feeling this is more than just CarPlay. I mean, was it The Verge? It reached out to all the manufacturers, wasn't it? To say,
yeah. So Apple listed
supporting this, or when Apple listed a load, didn't they?
They did. So basically, there were some big names in there. There were people like Land Rover, Audi, Ford, Porsche, Polestar, Honda, Volvo, etc. There was a lot of big names in there. So coming to launch, but as you say, they didn't go into too many details, did they, on when all this was coming?
So the Verge reached out to a couple, and there was a good one from Stellantis, which is Alfa Romeo, Fiat. It's the new name for them, and because they weren't on the list of supporting people, and they went, "This is more of an Apple operating system for automotive applications rather than a CarPlay upgrade." We have not made any announcements regarding this system at this time. But that was very telling. This is more than just a CarPlay. And it looks like it's going to require a lot of manufacturer input, I think.
Is this Project Titan? That's the question.
We've talked about this in the past. There's always been these rumors about Apple making a car. And we've had the discussion in the podcast and offline that I'm not convinced they are. But I think they want to take over the user experience of electronic systems within the car.
I'm with you here, and this is where I'm starting to think this is what we're seeing here. Apple are not building a car. I don't think it makes any sense for Apple to get into the car business and build a physical car. But as you say, the controlling the ecosystem of that vehicle as you move seamlessly from your phone to your iPad, your watch, into that environment, the same experience, the same ecosystem, the same application technology.
Yeah.
That is what Apple want. Apple want to own your life. And I think you're right. To do that, they need to be able to take control of those systems in that car. And beyond CarPlay as a extension of your phone, this isn't that. This is completely different. And I wonder, with all of the rumors that we've had, the reason that we're seeing all these big automotive names and people from the industry joining Apple isn't to build a car, it's to understand how to integrate this stuff into a car, isn't it?
I mean, they've always been terrible at user interfaces in cars. I mean, we've seen some crud in our time car entertainment systems.
I look, it's pure speculation, as you say, and whether or not this is something else. But given that statement, that come out to say it's something else, I can't help
Yep.
but wonder: is this the glimpse into that world of what Apple are really doing in the automotive space? Until it comes out and we see a car running it, I don't know. But look, I mean, just take a real split second. Think about what they launched last year with the ability to unlock your the BMWs and whatever with your phone. Yeah,
Yeah, I would have loved to test that, but they ran out of components, so I couldn't
yeah.
actually order it on the new car.
But that being that right. So now imagine that you've got you've got your car, you've got your watch. You just walk up to your car, it unlocks automatically because of the watch and the presence. You get in the car again. You don't. It just turns on because you're wearing your watch or your phone.
Yep.
It knows who you are, so it adjusts all of the capability automatically to you. So all of your apps, all of your messaging, everything is there as you go. It tracks all of that as you're driving. Or anything information wise is tracked. Everything about your journey times, that kind of stuff's there. You have an emergency, the contacts are there. You get out. Your partner, your wife, somebody else gets in that car. Again, the persona changes instantly to their preferences, and not. I know BMWs and other cars do that today with seating, because you have to press a button, don't you? Or it's mapped to the key, isn't it?
It's built to the key fob. Yeah.
Yeah, but again, those kind of system changes and that tracking again, I just think it's something else. I just think there's so much more to this. I could be wrong. I could completely be wrong, but I can't help but wonder: is this the car where Apple have been going down? And we're just seeing that now. But again, what we won't see though is anything beyond 2023, though, is it? That's the reality.
Late 2023. So really, you won't be able to get it in a car till 2024. I mean,
No.
I'm very excited by it. I want to see where this goes. I want it in my next car. If it actually looks anything like what they showed, it looked amazing. So, yeah, go watch the video of that.
Cool. Right then. So let's wrap up then with conversation on the M2, because the other big thing they announced was the M2 chip, which, to be realistic, was probably no surprise that they were going to launch an M2 chip. Really, they did make it very clear, didn't they, at the last event, that the M1 family was complete. Done. Yep, they were done.
Yep.
And it makes sense that the M2 was going to come sometime soon. So what do we got then? Well, we've got a pretty much an improved M1 iteration, the same way Intel, AMD do their chips. Anybody else? You get a new generation, and that's what you have with the M2, isn't it? Yeah, so then, Carl, what were some of the call-outs? So what do we got?
Apparently an 18% increase in performance over the M1. Now, this is just everything's compared to the M1, not the Pro, the Max.
No, I was just going to say, this is, the standard
they
M1
only
chip.
Released the M2, which is the new M1. They didn't release any of the other derivatives of it. So, 18% uplift over the M1. The memory bandwidth jumped to 100 gig a second. I think it was 60 or around there on the M1. You can have up to 25 gigabytes of DDR5 memory. I think 16 was the max on the M1, wasn't it? Yes. What else do we get? We got a new 10-core GPU, which is 35% faster. What else? ProRes encode decode, 6K external display. It's now running on a 5 nanometer second generation technology from TSMC. I'm trying to think what else we got there. I mean, it was just a lift up all round, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was just going to say, none of that.
The neural engine got a boost, didn't it? 40% increase in the neural engine. Yeah, it was a nice, solid upgrade.
Yeah, and I guess, if you're in the market for picking up a new device, the M2 chip makes sense. And, people can complain, oh my God, it hasn't been that long. But this is no different to AMD or Intel, who do a yearly iteration.
2 years.
And to be fair, Apple do exactly the same as well with, or they were doing, I should say, with the A lineup on their mobile chips. It was a new version. So this is no different. So none of it's shocking. Again, the one that kind of caught my eye, and I think, we talked about this offline, was the 24 gig support, wasn't it, of memory. And it was like 24 gigs a random, well, not a random number. It was kind of an odd choice. But like you said to me as we were talking before, you think what they've done is they've popped in another 8 gig memory module, haven't they? Or support for another 8 gig memory module.
Another channel, or they're using higher density chips. I don't know how they've done it. I mean, I think the M1 was using DDR4. Well, this is using DDR5. So that was going to account for some of the memory bandwidth increase, definitely. But yes, you mentioned 24 is an odd number. Yes, it's a multiple of 8. So I imagine there's another memory channel, but I could be completely wrong. We don't have the specs on that yet.
No, and given that normally we go normally we've seen 16 gig, so you go 8, 16, and then it jumps to
24. I'm sorry,
32.
32. Yeah,
Yeah,
64. Exactly.
I haven't run 24 gig. I actually can tell like I've got one PC at home that's got 24 gig of memory in it. But typically, it's an unusual number. You don't tend to see that happening too often. Whether or not they will release a device with 24 gig of memory, I don't know. But it seems odd that they've
And you
announced
can
it.
order that on the new MacBook Air, which we'll talk about shortly.
You can, or I couldn't. I know. I must have. Well, I forgot to check that. So thanks for that.
Yeah, you
Okay.
can do. Yeah.
The only thing I will say though that made me smile was it still only can support 2 external displays.
Okay. I wanted to know
Oh,
on that one, but still only 2.
It still can only support 2 displays, one of which is external, one is the display of the device. So actually, it can only
Yeah,
support one external display up to 6K.
they didn't mention anything on the IO front, did they?
No, because it's a load of. I'm not going to say the word because they're a family show. I just don't get
Frustrated.
Yes, it is, but yeah. So then, to announce the release of the M2, they dropped some new hardware, didn't they? One of which was the MacBook Air, which has had a bit of a redesign.
Yeah, it's a new chassis, got an improved display. It's got a better webcam. You still might need your iPhone though. It's coming in 4 colours.
Hang on, let's be clear
not
though.
the bright ones that John Prosser showed us. No, we've got silver, we've got space grey, we've got starlight, and we've got midnight, which is a very nice dark blue. I think it looks very, very nice.
I have to say, out of all the colours, the one I'd like to buy would be the midnight. Do you remember when they used to have the PowerBook lineup and they did a black and a white one?
Yeah, they did.
And the black ones always look pretty sharp, didn't they? I know black is a very PC laptop colour, but Apple haven't had such a dark device for so many years. See one,
black, it looks like a dark navy blue.
I guess it depends the light that you're in,
and the screen you're viewing it on. I've not seen it in the flesh, but they're shipping MagSafe chargers in exactly the same color. So you've got a braided midnight color charger as well. It looks very, very lovely.
Yeah, like I said, for me, given the fact we haven't had a dark Mac device for so long, it's just nice to see one, compared to silver, which I'm still space grey. Because I hate.
You're gonna pay a premium though, because it's more expensive, isn't it?
Oh, isn't it just? So then we've got obviously the M2 chip in that. What's the starting cost of that? Wasn't it
$12.99?
Yeah, I think it was $12.99, wasn't it? So
as opposed to $9.99.
Yeah, which is the original M1 powered MacBook Air, isn't it? But it is thinner. I mean, it is an exceptionally thin device. I think it was 11.3 millimeters in thickness, and it weighs.
It's not square. It's not tapered anymore, is it?
No, and it weighs 1.2 kilos, or for our American friends, 2.7 pounds, and 0.5 inch in thickness. Just for anybody that still lives in the imperial world. But yeah, they've lost, as you say, it's lost that wedge shape that kind of characterized the MacBook Air. Do you remember that original? Where was it Steve Jobs, or maybe it wasn't Steve Jobs? I can't remember. He pulled it out the envelope, wasn't it? Out the Manila envelope,
He did. Yes, yeah. Well, there were clues to that in the old the AR Easter egg, weren't they? For the
there were, yeah.
There was an envelope in there.
It's still got that. You've got it comes with I/O on it as well. As you've got no HDMI, no SD card, but you do get 2 Thunderbolt ports and the headphone socket as well. And the key,
same old.
Yeah, and the keyboard supports Touch ID, which is good, and you also get the Force trackpad as well. So yeah, it's nice. What was it? Same kind of screen as 1080p. Sorry, the 1080p FaceTime camera. Compared to the last version of the Air, and again we've got updated speakers to support Dolby Atmos as well. So I mean, for what you're paying for, it's a nice device. In terms of that entry-level device. The one interesting part with the charger, wasn't it, that it has 2 USB-C sockets on the charger, wasn't it?
It does. But as we looked, it's only 35 watts. You're not going to be charging your M2 MacBook Air full power as well as your iPad at full power.
Why do that? Why not just bundle in the 67 watt? Because
give us a dual port 67 watt one.
And don't Apple, will probably the 67 watt one will probably be bigger. But Apple, though, I don't understand, because there are competitors out there who make gallium nitride chargers of similar tech of the same size, if not slightly smaller, and give you much more, juice,
cheaper
if you will,
than what you're charging for your 35 watt.
But nice device, nice to see. Again, if I was in the market for something, entry level in the Mac space or wanted a small device, it does exactly what it says in the tin.
It does.
And I would be buying that darker color. I just wish you could get those in the other ones. But that wasn't the only bit of hardware then they dropped as well, was it? They
No.
did drop another
Drum roll.
device.
We got a Mac Pro, just a
We
MacBook
did.
Pro, and not the Mac
Yes.
Pro we were really after, because that was AWOL from the event. But yep,
Yes.
they have announced a 13-inch MacBook Pro. Yep. It's in the same 2016 chassis. With
I
the
was just going to
touch bar.
say, nothing really has changed with this one, has it?
No.
This is
Other
just
than them 2 chip.
Exactly. And just to be clear, this is the entry level MacBook Pro, isn't it? That if you're buying a MacBook Pro and you want to get a Mac and you don't want the Air, this is what you get. As you say, it's got an M2 chip. It comes with 13-inch display, standard one, as you say. 2 color sets again, nothing flash there. What was the was it the memory? I think it was exactly the same memory offerings, wasn't it?
Same.
So
it's
so you
exactly
get
the same as the Air, just a different chassis.
So that's right, isn't it? And I think so. You get only 8 gig, but you get 256 or 512 of SSD storage again. So there's nothing different at all in that view.
Why haven't they redesigned this? I mean, the only reason I can think is they must have tens of thousands of these chassis floating around in warehouses somewhere they need to get rid of. And that's the only reason they haven't actually redesigned the 13-inch Mac Pro.
I don't get it, because why would you offer it in the chassis that's not the same as the 21 design? I don't get it. As you say, no, like you say, beyond the fact, like you say, that they've got these knocking around somewhere, it just, to me, it's just cheap. Does that make sense? It doesn't feel that you're getting value for that,
No.
No, I think that's it. As far as I want to say on that, that's it. I don't want to.
Unless
I don't
you
want to say
really
anymore.
need a 13-inch MacBook Pro and not a 14-inch, just go buy the 14-inch.
Just go buy the 14-inch.
It's comparable pricing. There's really not a lot of money in it. And even the MacBook Air, actually, by the time you spec it to a decent spec, buy the MacBook Pro. Not the 13-inch, the 14-inch.
God.
Anyway, on that bombshell, I think we round this up now.
I think we have. It's probably a good place for us to wrap up for today. We've talked for quite some time. We've been on air for several hours. But I think we've covered the depth of it. You're going to get another cup of coffee. We've covered the depth of what was at WWDC. Many more things were announced or will be announced as well in some of the sessions that we haven't covered. Yep. We'll pick up those announcements in the coming shows in the weeks. But we'll be back next week for episode 92. Where we'll be back on our usual schedule of tech news, stories, and information. You, of course, can find us at techrant.online, which is all of our show notes and information. And again, on Twitter at Weekly Tech Rant, where again, we post our show notes links. And, like us, give us a subscribe, drop us a comment. I have met this week one of our subscribers in person. Yes, one of them. It may be the only subscriber, who knows? But I've met one of our subscribers in person this week. So good to do that and get out and about. But yeah, I think that's it. So I've been Jay.
I've been Carl. Have a good evening all.